All right, hello everybody. Michael McGinnis, The Ripple Effect. Fantastic session last time, well received, well viewed, and an encore session today to an earlier session that we had on healing. In fact, we had a couple of sessions on healing. One talking about permissions and that aspect of healing as a concept. And today we're actually going to talk about healing with ourselves and to others with respect to illnesses, disease, and things that we're really dealing with. And since we're fortunate to have two who have well-versed and experienced in this way, we're going to start off with Bruce and Tom, and then Richard and I will share some various thoughts and ideas and stories that we're aware of with respect to other healing techniques. So Bruce, you want to kick it off?
Well, sure. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I mean, health is a huge concept. I mean, we all want to have good health. We don't always. Things, challenges appear in our health for one reason or another. I'm sure there's always a reason, but I think the big one right now, of course, is probably cancer. There's so many people who have cancer, and it's a difficult thing. There's so many different approaches that people have towards cancer. Different cultures have different approaches. Western medicine has its own approach that has been heavily criticized. With basically the chemicals and various things that are used to overpower and kill cancer cells. My own experience, I've had two types of cancer, colorectal and prostate cancer. So it's something that I've had a lot of time to ruminate on and reflect upon. And even with the first one, I decided that cancer was going to be my companion and it was not going to be my master. I decided that I would have a say in things, and I really believe that. I didn't give in to depression. I didn't give in to doubts. I decided that I would go with the Western medicine approach and still be as positive as I could possibly be. So I went through the chemotherapy and survived that. And as far as I know, the colorectal is in remission. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm done with it. So I still have the prostate cancer to deal with. And what I wanted to share with you was something I happened to catch on a Hay House symposium that they had. And, lots of great speakers, as they always have. But a particular woman who caught my ear was, her name was Kelly Turner. She's a PhD. Best I can recall, I know she's published. Best I can recall, she was a medical student, and then she decided to research cancer patients, and then became really interested in those patients who had serious stage 4, stage 5 disease, and yet seemingly miraculously had remissions. And when I listened to everything she had to say, it really caught my ear. There were a lot of common things that I thought, some of which I had already been doing, and others that I hadn't thought of, but made a lot of sense to me. So I'd be willing to talk about those more, but I think, Tom, you were going to say something?
Well, yeah, but we were talking a little bit before we kicked on here. I have been dealing with prostate cancer this past year and had the diagnosis sometime around October November, something like that. And there was a time period where you didn't know, where you do the biopsy and then you're waiting to hear what the result is. And you go through this whole thought process. Well, how bad is it? How bad could it be? And you get into the fear mode. And that was the hardest part for me, really. Once the treatment started, and I went through radiation and I'm going through the hormone therapy without all the details. But during the once I knew what was going to be and it was explained how it was going to happen, I realized that I had started listening to Mother Mira. She has a 1 o'clock meditation session, and my treatment was at 1 o'clock every day. So I put Mother Mira on my phone and had her sitting over there in the room where you take, you put your stuff. And her thing is just silent meditation for an hour. The treatment is only, as you know, did you do radiation or did you just have operation? Yeah. So that lasts very short time, but it's like, 15 minutes you're in and out. So I use that time to focus the energy of the healing that they were attempting to do. I mean, the radiation is what they do. Rather than seeing that as hurting me, I saw that as radiating, just turning the imagery around like you're talking about, to radiating the light or the energy out and to wherever it's needed and to whomever it's needed. And so it was really very healing for me because I felt like I was doing something positive to help people during the time that I was receiving treatment for, cancer. So that really helped me to just turn that focus around, and think about how this enhanced my ability to radiate light and love to wherever it's needed in the universe. So that was my experience with that. And actually, each day I went, I kind of looked forward to it. And it was over. It was kind of like, well, what can I do now? How do I keep this going? I need some treatments or something. So I'm trying to set aside some time each day where I can, because I mean, once you have the treatment, it's in remission, and you take the hormone therapy, and that kind of knocks the wind out of you because all of your male testosterone is gone because that's what feeds the cancer. So I'm trying to deal with that, with this kind of more, energy, less energy, and wanting to be doing stuff, and your body changes and so forth. So I'm trying to use that again to think about getting in touch with my feminine, and all the male stuff that we talked about this several weeks ago, the macho thing and the male thing. So really it's an opportunity to maybe get in touch with my feminine side more and to find ways that I can enhance that. And rather than again feeling like, well, I'm a wimp, the feeling like, well, hey, I just get in touch with that feminine part and see how I can be more nurturing.
So Tom, before we switch back to Bruce and he gives his list, can you give, as best you can in words, what you were doing in this visualization?
Well, the radiation is in 7 areas. And they mark you. They have a tattoo. Bruce, I'm sure you have 3 tattoos probably on you, permanent little marks that they place on you. And they start on one side and they go from, it goes like that. It goes all around these 7 each places. So it was obvious, hey, I've got 7, number 7. I'm going to focus a chakra each time. So when it goes to number 1, I'm radiating from the root chakra. When it goes to number 2, I'm radiating from second chakra, then the solar plexus, and then the heart, and the throat and the third eye and the crown. So each of those, and they're very short. It's not less than a minute really for each one of those. But during the time that that was happening, I was fervently radiating what I that energy. It's like a channel of light, radiating energy. So it was very powerful for me. And plus, I had Mother Mira on the side, offering her energy. So, because I know one of the things that she does when she's radiating, when she's untangling your cords, she's sending you energy to wherever it's needed and however it's needed without judgment. It's here's what you need, here it is. And so that was a supplement to what I was doing, which was simply thinking, trying to focus each area of my body as an area of humanity that could be healed, healing the earth, healing the creativity, healing power, healing the heart, healing expression, healing insight, so that we can see more clearly what we need to do, and healing achievement, and healing wisdom. So it gave me a focus that way to be able to use that experience that probably for a lot of people is frightening to go through that. I mean, they don't know what's happening, and it's just very mechanical, and they just sit there and they're thinking again how sick I am or how terrible this is or whatever. And I felt it when I came in because of my attitude about it. I was lighthearted, just like Richard, what you do. Lighthearted, of course, it was Christmas time. And so my last treatment was just like December 23rd or something like that. And they had their Christmas party the last day I had my treatment. And so, that's when they were giving gifts out to everybody, and they were in there doing their thing. So, but the timing is just perfect on this. And so I was able to bring, I think, a happiness for the people around me, people that were going through the treatments just before me, just after me, whoever's laying on the table after me must have felt some of that. The people that are doing all of that, appreciating them, thanking them, and being lighthearted about it so that they're not feeling depressed because they have to do this day in and day out for how many people, over and over again. It must be hard on them to do that. To maintain that happiness because they're dealing with people that are really frightened. So I feel like it radiated a positive force during that time. And
So if I was to put it in terms of like people who, have not done something like this before, is, rather than go in and having very common thoughts, in fact, Bruce is going to talk about some of those thoughts in this list coming up, but to have fear thoughts or, despair thoughts, or whatever the thoughts may be, is to be specifically thinking fervently, as you said, a focused thought, loving thought, positive thought, upbeat thought, and in your mind, and see if I've captured it, if not put it in your words. If in your mind is here are these this I'm getting radiation, so there's this rays actually coming in, and I'm visualizing that those rays that are love, are
right,
healing.
right.
And so you're constantly just focusing on that. And again, I'm just put it in terms so that somebody can grasp, but what do I do? And is that sort of
Yes.
along the lines?
Yes. Instead of seeing it as an injury to your body or as a force of negative, that I have a bad thing, it's using actually the energy of that as a kickstart, as a battery charger to send that light out. Because radiation is a strong force, as we know. So use it for a positive influence to help heal others. It wasn't about healing me. It was about focusing that energy to radiate it out for the planet, for anybody who is needing it, and especially the people there in the room waiting, the next person, or the people in the area, in the cancer treatment area, and that kind of thing. So, it helped me just because I wasn't as, I was focused on something else other than me, my predicament. But it also, I think, had an effect. I know it had an effect on others. And if we would all treat it that way, whenever we have an illness or a sickness or a calamity, and it doesn't have to just be illness, it can be situations that we use that as a way of healing, um, to move past it. So we're not downtrodden about it.
Very
Sitting
good.
there, you sitting there to, giving love out to all the other people in the room. That's why I call you the real Santa Claus.
Well, it's just there. You don't have to try and do that.
Yeah. That's what makes it real.
So, I mean, I guess if there's a technique to helping people is to be more positive within yourself,
Yeah, and I
use-
think what would be nice too is that I'm thinking of some future sessions. It would be great is maybe we each bring in, and actually conduct a healing technique for the viewers, right? And to actually run through that. I think that would be great to hear it, see it, and have you guide it. So we'll
And
switch back. Go ahead. Sorry.
Quickly. And the other part of that is the conversation we had before about death and dying, that if you're not afraid of dying, it certainly makes it a lot easier to do that. If you know that death is not the worst thing that can happen to you,
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, please do. There's
I
a
was just
great
going to
leading.
say, you're right. To come from a place of love rather than a place of fear is so much more beneficial. I mean, we all have two sides to consider. There's what's within and what's without. And if we can really right the ship of what's within, then we can offer so much more to others with, who are outside ourselves. And I've always felt like to receive a blessing or a benefit from someone's prayers, it's a two-way street. When I say my prayers, I feel like, I'm sending out love as you do yourself, Tom, and that helps facilitate my receptivity to receiving
Yes.
blessings.
I agree.
It's a two-way street, and to do something like that. And yes, I remember the same thing, sitting in the waiting room, other people in the room who were very fearful. And I tried to be as loving as I could. It wasn't really the situation where I could speak to them, but I just, was very aware of them.
Yeah, I
and-
wasn't able to speak to anyone
No.
about this.
But when I was on the table, I think it was like the third or fourth visit, I said, could you please let me know what you're doing when you're doing it? So they would say, okay, now we're giving you radiation here. We're giving you radiation here. So I could get that down. And like you, receiving it with love to let it be do, the best that it could do. And, but I really commend you for, using that moment to send out and broadcast your own love. That's brilliant. I really like that.
And that's something that we can all do in any adverse situation.
Yes.
Use that adversity, because by going through it, you're actually embodying the adversity and healing it. And I think that's what we're doing.
Right.
When we take an illness on, we're taking on the illness as whatever, as a saint or an avatar would do. They take on, like Jesus took on those healings. He took on stuff himself. Mother Mira probably does that in some way or another, and knows what to do with it.
Right.
They can take it on and then release it in a way for you or for others.
Nothing wrong for us to strive to be like those people, and strive to do what they do.
I mean, and I don't mean to take it on in the sense of infirmity, like we were talking about, where Tom took on trying to heal somebody who he shouldn't have. He took it
Right.
on. There's a difference there of what I'm talking about. It's more like taking it and getting rid of it, not taking it in as much as transforming it, transmuting it.
The difference
Sure.
would be in spiritual permission to do so.
Yeah.
If like Tom, he did not have spiritual permission to do what he did. So
Yeah, he knew
had to
better.
go,
Yeah.
right? He knew better. But
Yeah.
someone like Mother Mira or whatnot, I am assuming they understand they have spiritual permission to take it on and then dissipate it, transform it, transmogrify it, whatever occurs to
Right.
change the energy.
Yeah, it's implied because they wouldn't be there if that wasn't,
Yeah.
they're going there for the purpose of healing. So,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally a non-ego thing that they do. So there's no, they're not in the driver's seat. They're not telling it what to do. They're just tapping into spirit and sharing it and trying to enlighten other people to accept it. It's just spirit. No motives, no contingencies. It's totally unconditional. And I think that's when it's just pure spirit, pure God.
and I think that's part of the priesthood. Those of us who are in the order of Mel Gibson's chest. Remember that?
Yes.
Order of Mel Gibson's chest.
Yes.
Oh, so much fun. The priesthood, it in part is a group of people intentionally coming into the planet during this time to be healers, to radiate love and to make a transformation, help us make the earth and the people on it to make that transformation. And part of that is taking our share of whatever it is that we need to go through and literally transforming it within ourselves by acting on a fearless way of transformation, fearlessly transforming within ourselves the calamities and the pains and the worries and all of that we take on as a human, and finding ways to transform that. And that in turn radiates to everyone around us. And that's the ripple effect. And so it literally, we are in each other, as we talked about last week. We are part of each other. So by taking it on literally through suffering and through worrying and through anxiety and through this and through that trial, we overcome it. We move it. And I think that's the example that maybe somebody out there will
That's
grab a
great.
hold of.
Bruce, you want to share your list?
Sure. Yeah. Again, this is Dr. Kelly Turner's list of the things that she discovered in her research that in those rare instances when somebody with a dire diagnosis of cancer suddenly has a spontaneous remission and is completely cured of the cancer. And so these are 9 common things that she found that they all did. And so this is kind of the physician within, heal thyself type of approach that these individuals had outside of Western medicine or anything else for that matter. One was they all had a radical diet change. They stopped eating the toxic foods. They ate more fruits and vegetables, reduced the meats and the sugars, the wheat and dairy, and they drank more filtered water, ate more organic things, vegan diets or paleo diets, things like that. Another one was they started taking supplements and herbs to detox their body. And that's different for each individual. They each have their own approach. And each person would need to determine the things that they need to put into their body or the things they need to take out of their body.
Bruce,
So,
just on that one, is there a resource that you know for that? Like who would help you be able to determine which supplements to take? Any thought on that, or maybe anybody knows?
well, probably a naturopath or uh, somebody like that. Yeah,
Sociopath? A sociopath?
yeah. They're not really that reliable.
Yeah.
I go to a woman who is an NP,
Nurse practitioner.
nurse
No.
practitioner, yes.
Oh, man.
Who started out working in a allergy office, and there were people that she couldn't reach, she couldn't help, and she still wanted to. So she heard of alternative uh, approaches. She tried a few of them, and she started getting successes with it. Some of the doctors in the office said, keep going. And some of them said, don't, we don't like this. She eventually went out on her own, but she has the full training from her being an NP, and she's been into all these alternative supplements and whatnot for I don't know how long now. But she is marvelous. She can order blood tests to check how you're doing, to determine, well, you need to eat more of this food, or you need this supplement, or take that one out now. But where you find someone who has both of those backgrounds, I don't know. But it's worked out great to met her.
So
So
please,
the
yep, continue. Yep, thank you. Sorry.
third thing that she mentioned, more along an emotional, spiritual line, was to really give a lot of thought to our thoughts. Our thoughts are key in any kind of healing process. And there are those thoughts that help us and those that hinder our immune system. So if we increase our positive emotions, if we laugh, smile, those things are always helpful. And that patients who have a great fear from their diagnosis, they really need to focus on getting rid of that fear, which is easier said than done, of course. But even if they can do this for just 5 minutes per day, not be lost in that fear, that's helpful. And then try to build on that, as they go along. I guess through therapy, releasing suppressed emotions that keep you from living in the present moment. I think in order to heal, you must be in the present moment. You can't be in the past. You can't be in the future. You're right now letting yourself heal. There's the universal chi or ki, the universal life force, the universal energy that flows throughout the universe, that flows through us. And when it flows through us unhindered, we're healthy. If there's some reason within us that it's blocked, that's when we become unhealthy. And she mentioned that there are several different ways to focus on these blockages that we can try to unblock. Another thing is to follow your intuition, your gut, follow your intuition, what it says to do. If the doctor wants you to do something you think is just really, really wrong for you, you've got to make that decision. And you accomplish that by listening to the reptilian part of your brain, the one that the fight or flight thing, the one that are base instincts for survival. And cancer forces us to use that mode. And we need to use that mode, as opposed to the frontal cortex, which is where we do our high reasoning and, I've got to do this today, I've got to, this tomorrow, or planning and that sort of thing. Listen to your base, what it's saying to do. Should I do this treatment or not? You've got to listen to that. Again, I think it's part of your intuition, your gut. You really need to pay attention to that and not just blindly follow anything that you're told to do. And she also mentioned that those two parts of the brain, the two different ways of thinking, you're either in one or the other. They're mutually exclusive. You're either in that reptilian part of your brain, which is your base survival instinct thing, or you're in the intellectual part. You can't be in both simultaneously. So basically, just to pay more attention to the reptilian part of your brain is basically that one. Of course, deepening your connection to spirit or to God, finding a way to quiet your mind, to meditate, to create emotional, spiritual connections with other people, come to a deep peace, and eventually to become undaunted by anything. Again, perhaps you're not being afraid of dying is a big help. The next thing was they all feel divine love through their meditation. They feel connected with spirit, with God. When you do this, your pituitary glands release endorphins, serotonins, and dopamine, and that's all helpful with the healing process. Another is the outpouring of love from family and friends. Perceiving strong social support is really key. This helps to release oxytocin, which really helps build up your immune system. Another common factor with people that have the spontaneous remissions is they all have a strong reason to live. Whether that be, I want to finish writing the book. I want to, I've got to, or write a play, or I've got to build this shed in the backyard, or I've got to build this house for my son, or whatever it is, some major, you need to find some reason why you need to live, and latch on to that and hold on to that, and let that help pull you forward. And then lastly, the recommendation, taking control of your health. Take charge of your treatment. Define what your cure is. Do your research. Empower yourself, and never feel helpless. And do all that you can do towards your recovery. And those are the basic 9 things that she found in common. And when I listened to her speak, I was just overwhelmed. I thought, it just really, with such great brevity, puts it all in a nutshell. If we could do these things, those of us who have our afflictions, I think that's the best way to overcome. And I don't think that violates anybody, any religion, anything at all, to want to have that strong connection with God.
Bruce, that's a fantastic list, and your summary there to me was really perfect. It sums it up well. Is that list sums up? Here's a to-do list, really, that you could start off with and do that. And Richard, your thoughts, thoughts, comments on healing?
There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. Everything's good. No problem. Forget it. I don't want to talk about everything. That's what I learned in my childhood. Just, you don't talk about anything, you don't deal with anything, and and you die of it for some, in some way later on. I'm looking at, I'm listening to you guys talk and thinking back on, what do I have to deal with? And I've been very, very, very fortunate to not have a lot physically going on that's interruptive to me. Um, I have a little atrial fibrillation that's hereditary, but it's light enough. They're doing nothing about it. They just say, well, okay, you're getting along. You'll get along then. But the thing that is an ongoing problem for me is much like you, Mike. I grew up in a uh, difficult situation, an alcoholic family, alcoholic stepfather, and a very reticent, distant father. And I just ended up having to being exposed to too much from too early to too late. Just this uh, long area, an interval of a couple of decades of uh, just emotional, what I want to call emotional abuse. And it has left me with an anxiety that's expressed in uh, that it interrupts a lot of what I'm trying to do. I've got to work myself up to get up and do a show, get up and do a talk. I'm getting much more comfortable with doing these, but the fear that it generated in me, my response was a sense of this will end my existence. The fear is so strong and so deep, and from such a very, very young age, that it's when I look at it, it looks like it will, whatever it is I'm fearful of, will end my existence. Not death, where you go on and meet Tom and all these other people and everything's great, but end my existence, just gone, done. And that's what's way in the back of my head too much of the time. And what I have found that is working for me is connected with Krista uh, last week, is that sense of giving love to uh, of the people who were most important to me in those years. My father made up for everything in the last few months of his life. My stepfather sent me a gift some years after he had passed that let me understand that my understanding of it was, oh, that's how he really saw me, but could never express it. Uh, my mother's has come back several times. My older brother, who had an immense mean streak throughout his life, has apologized just so heartfeltly that if you mention something that happened way back, you can just see him sink. It takes the heart out of him to think, where he's going, oh my God, I really did that. And the last person that I have to work with is my next younger brother, who has still not been able to have the courage to give an honest, actual apology. And that he is my biggest spiritual challenge right now, is for me to form a picture of him in my mind and love him as he is, with all the manipulative things he's done to so many people in his life, and to me as well, to just love him as he is anyway,
So,
no matter
Richard,
what.
just think of him as a cancer.
Yeah, very much.
Think of him as
Yeah.
cancer, and because that's the root, because you maybe you haven't got it now, but the things that Bruce is telling us is not even if you already have cancer, or maybe you don't, but these patterns will eventually build up and cause, as you say, the big one.
Yeah.
And so maybe just thinking of him as an illness in yourself, not him as an illness, but as a cancer, and loving that the same way that we're talking about taking that on as a healing. It'll help you, if not him.
Yeah, this is what's actually happening is it's difficult for me to do the loving of him. But when I make it, I change. That's I haven't seen him since September of last year. So I don't know where he is, what's happening with him, but I've changed.
Mhm.
I'm that little bit more at ease than I would have been had I not done this work. And where if you want to think of technique at all, it's like trying to remember at what point or what time or what was the feeling where my heart was most warmed. The birth of my children or something happening with a loved one where I could truly feel my heart expanding. I do that for him. I allow that to occur within me with his image in mind, so it's for him. And that changes me and allows me to go through my life with that little bit less anxiety as I go along. And if I do a healing for someone, I do a similar thing. It's imagine if it's for the person or for part of their body or whatever. If I can imagine what a spleen looks like or something like that, and then just put that imagery in my mind, and then whatever depth and warmth and beauty of love I can generate within me, share it with that. That's my main challenge at this point in life.
Wow, Richard, we do link up on this, and you may have to correspond more. We should touch base, ourselves and connect, because I so much can relate to that. And actually, I think we should do a session on that too, because I know there are others. There's a lot of others that really confront this, and from a number of different reasons or causes. And I very much appreciate your sharing this along with each of you, each of us, really just opening up to the world and sharing our stories. I think that's outstanding. And I want to sort of come back to that and build on it. A couple thoughts that I have first related to cancer. It's interesting. I'm going to just share my screen here, walk through a few things that reminded initially is Anita Morjani. So for those who look or read or review near-death experiences, well worth listening to her story. She has her book, Dying to Be Me. She's frequently is on the talking circuit. Was discovered by Wayne Dyer, a real heartwarming story of their own connection. And her story is quite amazing. Is that she had cancer, and it was just riddled with it, stage 4 across her body, and was in the hospital and dying from it, and was really literally on her last legs, and died from it. But yeah, had a near-death experience. And sort of the thing that is this unique aspect of her story, and it's all documented by the doctors and everything, is that literally she came back, and literally within, I forgot the time span, a couple of weeks or something, she was cancer free. And of course, baffled every doctor, physician, involved with the treatment, whatever, is how could this be? And it just literally was this just spontaneous healing. And that's her thing, is she now goes out and talks about it as it relates to cancer, primarily as a fear. And that's what she discovered for herself. She did a lot of activities. She talked about yoga and eating, but she said that what she came to realize in her experience is that she'd never dealt with the underlying fear. And that was really the cause from that. In a near-death experience, that was confronted and dealt with, which was a part of her reason for coming back. And so that's one aspect of fantastic story. Um, Elizabeth Hay has a book here. You can see You Can Heal Your Life. I mean, this goes back into the 70s and 80s. Hay House. And she is the founder of Hay House, Louise Hay. And she had a book, You Can Heal Your Life. And what's unique about it is I have just one of the pages there, is that for each kind of an illness, she relates to it as a cause and an affirmation, something that you can repeat and share to yourself, and over time to repeat that fervently and with the belief, and grow that belief into it to be that this is the truth, rather than replacing this old unhealthy belief, that would help in healing. So there's some great things, and I think that's still commonly used out there. Mother Mirror, by the way, look it up on just Google or YouTube. So here's some of the sessions. I've yet to listen to her. I've heard about it a number of times. And so purposely I looked this up because I want to take a stab at this as well. And going way back was Dr. Bernie Siegel in his book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And this goes back, published 1986. And it actually, to me, came from a vice president, a great friend of mine, back at that time in my days of working at Kodak and Rochester. For some people, I'd have to explain what Kodak is and what they did, but what they, so the vice president there had brain cancer, prognosis was 6 months, and beat it. And since then he read the book, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Love, Medicine, Miracles, and he comes up with a lot of similar to what Bruce had mentioned with respect to the quotes or the 9 things to do. He had early studied, and he goes, what's the difference between those who beat the prognosis and those who, you say 6 months to live, in 6 months often passed away? And he said and he called them exceptional patients. And he said there was a separate and unique set of behaviors that he was identifying. And again, Bruce, your list is perfect, for that as well. And I just love this quote. This is something that Bruce, you brought up, and in yours is that you have to take it in your own hands. And I think the pitfall is that we turn it over to the doctors, and do everything that they say as if they've really got the answer, when, as Bernie Siegel said, and as one of the 9 things to do, Bruce said, is to take charge. And, his comment here is a quote, long-term survivors had poor relationships with their physicians, as judged by the physicians. They asked a lot of questions and expressed their emotions freely, meaning that they were taking charge. They wanted to know. They grilled the doctor. They challenged the doctor. And Bruce, I recall your bout of going through cancer is in our conversations as taking charge of that as well. So just some thoughts and resources for those that are dealing with cancer, as well as dealing with anything, and just that mindset. And I just want to piggyback on Richard. I know we did the show, and Richard, thanks for attending, the Modern Day Vision Quest. I really had a chance to go in depth, to really share my story. And similar to Richard, as he mentioned, is going through the abuse. And I think it's hard for others to understand, just like for me, cancer is hard to understand because I haven't had it, but abuse and things, particularly at a young age, can really mess you up. And I know that I still have aspects, and you hit it right on the head, Richard. Said that my immediate response, and it's that PTSD I've been diagnosed with and the long list of anxiety and other things that came from really torture is the best really way to describe it. It still messes me up today. It's that immediate response, and I work on it and I work on it, and I still will. I'll be working on it till I end this life. And and it's that process of really working through that immediate response. And just like you, Richard, fear is related to that, because that's, for me, what was always the thing is I never knew. I never knew when the abuse was going to happen. And so as a result, I had to live in a constant state of high awareness to attempt to try to watch and monitor behaviors that I came to learn were indications that all hell was going to break loose. And, of course, that messes up. I mean, it messes up when you're a kid, right? A young kid kind of thing. So again, Richard, thank you for sharing that. And we should talk and maybe even do a session on that to help reach out to others, because it's something that I've come a long way, and I still got a long way to go. And from what I really gathered, this is, I could appreciate my counselor said, it's nothing you're going to get rid of. It's just, you're going to use that awareness to deal with it and cope with it, because it's buried so deep. Not to give up, that there's always a chance of miracle and other things, but just practically speaking, those things are lifelong, very often in nature.
I remember Barbara Whitfield talking about difficulties she had as a young woman, and with her near-death experiences, she got what she called a spiritual bypass for a while, where she was spiritually so high that those things didn't affect her life. But after a while, you come back down and you normalize, and you have to deal with it, and you still have to deal with that. And I remember watching Tom Sawyer go through the same thing. After a while, for him, as his health deteriorated and his spiritual abilities lessened, the old Tom was coming back a little bit more and a little bit more. It's just as you say, it's something you really have to work at.
Yeah. So, everybody, Bruce, Tom, your accounts with cancer, absolutely, thank you. It's gracious of the willingness to be able to share and share the thoughts, because obviously, Bruce, as you said, it's a very prevalent disease out there today. And, there's hope for that, as there is everything. And I think that's the thing we need to do. And hopefully, like with sessions like last time with Krista and the near-death experiences, which we gotta find some more to be able to bring on, because they're just such a helpful reminder. Because Tom, I think you really hit it on the head, is one of the most powerful beliefs that I think you can have. And I think that's when in the show that I had on the Modern Day Vision Quest, sort of my quest, my spiritual journey and stuff, from the origins of the trauma to what I learned along the way and how I learned it. But the essence of it is that is this belief, and as I said, people ask me, so what, you said the meaning of life, what is it? And I said, that's it, that it's simply, there's meaning to life. And I could get all intellectual and talk about karma and all these kind of things here, but frankly, I don't choose to, because that's, to me, a belief, and probably some of this, some of that, but more importantly, there's meaning to life, and there's something afterwards. That's all I need to know. And that's my core that I go to, in any of my experiences that even to today to do with. And I think that's a powerful thing, is it's important. And near-death experiencers like Tom was for us, are really instrumental to be able to help people understand that there is something if they choose to believe. And there's now more and more of them telling their stories, giving greater evidence that there's really something to that.
Yeah.
Tom, Bruce, any?
Yeah, there's the message that comes to me is the idea of being a victim, and that if you see yourself as the victim of your illness or the victim of your circumstance, rather than taking charge of it, like Bruce says, to move it, so you're not the victim, you're the conqueror. You're the one you're overcoming. You are taking the challenge of overcoming all of the negativities that the world lays out there in all of its glory, to try and squash, all of this love. There's this force that seems to be, oh, I don't want all that love. I don't, there's, and all that lovey-dovey stuff. That's all, there's this force that we seem to have to resist, and push against sometimes. And rather than being suppressed and the victim of that, we move forward and push it aside and, become the victor.
Well said. And I appreciated your comments before. Bruce commented, we all did, is the true Santa under you coming out because your healing was outward focused, which I think is, we often think of healing ourselves and healing within, and you added a different dimension to it, which is really to begin that with healing others, which helped to heal yourself.
That's the only way, because we are interconnected, and you're not going to heal yourself if you are just thinking about yourself. It becomes too self-consuming, and that depletes.
How are you interconnected to me right now? I feel this.
I'm feeling that fender, man. I'm telling you, that the fender is like got, yeah. Ooh,
Yeah, please from it.
Okay. All right. Well, now that I know what that hemorrhoid is his Bruce. Oh no, Bruce, your thoughts?
Well, just to chime in, I mean, given a choice between death and life, I choose life. Given a choice between fear and love, I choose love. And, if we can apply those principles to our entire life, approach everything with that, I think we're doing it the best that we can do.
Fantastic. And Richard, again, thank you. I think it's funny, the thing that we share in common is that we both utilize humor, sort of approach ourselves, you as the clown, right? Sharing that side. And that was my survival mechanism is I would just help make others laugh and, bring in joke and laughter to that, which was my sort of healing technique in terms of just getting to this point of levity there too. And so we'll have to, I think, again, we've got to see Richard dressed up in one of these sessions.
I don't do all the makeup and everything anymore. I gave that up I did it for a few years, gave it up because once you paint a face on, can't change your expression. I had so many other expressions I wanted to portray in my clowning. There's take the makeup off. Then pretty soon the crazy colors come off. So I look the bib overalls I wore in one of our sessions. That's my costume. That and a bowler hat.
Yes. That's fantastic. So Father Tom, you want to close us with
Father Dip. That's Father Dip.
Father
Father Dip. DIP. That's spelled DIP.
Yep.
Father Dip. You had to be there.
And it was worth it.
It's another story we'll get into one day.
So you want to close us out with a nice healing thought?
Um, if you can realize that you're not alone, that we are all interrelated, and that your challenge is my challenge, but also your healing is my healing, that everything that I do to help me to heal helps you to heal, and vice versa.
Great thought. All right, everybody, until next time, here's to your healing and the ripple effect that you create with that healing. Till next time.